Hi, good day. This is Justin Pineda, and for today, we'll be talking about computer forensics. So, for our discussion points, the discussion will revolve around the computer forensics methodology, what are the search warrant exceptions, and how to handle your evidence from collecting, analyzing, identifying, protecting, and then we'll be talking about the concept of chain of custody and some of the analysis that we will be doing. All right, so in summary, computer forensics methodology will talk about acquire, authenticate, and analyze. So first, of course, we need to acquire the evidence. So when we talk about acquisition, it has to be authentic. Okay, and the most important part would be the integrity. There should be no modifications in the evidence that we have acquired. So once we have acquired the evidence, we need to authenticate it. Right, so does it have the same hash values? Right, is it the same as the one we originally seized? Okay, so it's really important to document the process and the people who handle the evidence. So we have to authenticate, are these people the right people who should be handling it? Was it stored correctly? And the last would be analyze. Of course, the meat of the work would be on the analysis. What did the tools tell us? And from there, we put our um, expertise, and from there we come up with our analysis and conclusion. Now we have compiled um, a list of references covering computer forensics methodology. And the common denominator would be the following steps. The first step is to obtain a search warrant. Of course, this is with the assumption that the group of forensic investigators will be coming from law enforcement groups or law enforcement agencies. Second is to evaluate and secure the scene, similar to a crime scene, and then collect the evidence, you secure the evidence, acquire the data, you analyze the data, you assess the evidence and the case, and then you prepare the final report and testify as expert witness. Now, the goal here is for us to be able to ensure that the process is followed correctly, that when the court summons us to present, we will be able to represent um, the group of the forensics investigator as an expert witness. Right. Now, the question is, of course, the first step is obtain a search warrant. But are there any cases wherein we do not need a search warrant? So the answer is yes, there are instances, there are exceptions to the rule, and we have six. No? So the first one is consent. Consent definitely is an exception to the rule because the person in question is giving you permission to access the um, his or her belongings, or allows you to enter her property to investigate, right? So consent is number one exception. You don't need a search warrant for that. Second is exigent circumstances. So when we say exigent circumstances, these are circumstances wherein we need very quick response because the evidence um, might not be able might not be available after some time because it's in a volatile state. It, um, it needs urgent response, it needs to be rescued, and so on and so forth. So, exigent circumstances. Now, so this is a bit vague because there are a lot of examples that may appear as exigent circumstance, but later on might not be ruled as exigent circumstance. But definitely, if the evidence will not be, yeah, needs to be collected because it will be destroyed or not accessible or unreadable, then that would fall under exigent circumstance. Third, inventory searches. Of course, this is normal to conduct inventory searches. Okay, in most cases, we need to make sure that um, the products or the things that we're carrying are indeed um, contain the um, contain in the checklist or in the records that we have. Okay. Fourth is international issues, which is also related to border searches. So if we talk about international issues, when we crossed from one jurisdiction to another, we are actually submitting ourselves to security checks conducted um, by the other country. So we have to follow protocols, and of course, there are instances wherein it might be intrusive. They do racial profiling and so on and so forth. But again, it does not need a search warrant if you're doing a border search or it's a matter of international issues. And the last would be a search incident to a lawful arrest. So you may have heard of um, um, the plain sight or the plain view rule, wherein um, whatever is seen during a checkpoint, for instance, then um, that would uh, that would be a condition whether or not there is a search incident to a lawful arrest. So if there is a contraband seen in a um, plain view site, okay, then they the law enforcement agencies, the police, can stop you and do a search in your car. So and in other instances, so the or the plain view rule will apply here. Now, the basic rule for forensic is that if you're not a lawyer, you are not a lawyer. So you will not act as a lawyer, but as a forensic investigator. So you leave all the legalities to the lawyers and do um, your analysis as a forensic investigator. Okay. So for collecting evidence, you have, acquiring evidence, identifying evidence, protecting, transporting, and storing evidence. So when we talk about acquiring evidence, you need to know the data volatility of the storage media. So you have to collect the evidence as soon as you can. And this is the list of storage media that we used. Although this is not exhaustive, but if you would notice, the ones on the top would be the one with the highest data volatility, which would be your CPU storage, and then your system storage, which is your RAM, kernel tables, fixed media, removable media, and then output and then hard copy. So you need to follow your protocols. It will differ depending on the organization on how you handle acquiring evidence based on data volatility. Should you turn off a computer when acquiring an evidence? So this is one of the important questions. All right. So should you turn off a computer when acquiring the evidence? So again, this is where data volatility will come in. Are you um, are you investigating data in the memory? If yes, then you need to be able to get it before turning it off. Or if it's not important, if there is a need for you to acquire evidence from secondary storage, then okay, it might be okay to turn off the computer. So it will depend on the incident response procedure that you have. Now, should dumping of physical memory be done? No? So again, so it it will depend on the company policy. So as for legal on the process, if you have policies in place, and see what your uh, company lawyers will advise you. But for consistency purposes, okay, at least based on the references that we have, the memory should be dumped. Okay, so system powered down clearly, meaning you have to turn it off. Okay, not through um, going to start and then shut down and then click OK. No, you have to power it off, so it will turn off and will not load or install any other updates or malware. So you have to power down clearly. Okay, the image should be made and used as you work. Okay? And most importantly, never examine a system with utilities provided by itself. Right. So when identifying the evidence, you need to label and store it. Okay, make sure the labels can be easily removed. So check if you're using a permanent marker. Do not collect the evidence by yourself. So you need to have a witness or a disinterested party, and then keep logs of your actions during seizure analysis and storage. Protecting your evidence. So protect evidence from electromagnetic or mechanical damage. Ensure that the evidence is not tampered or damaged. And then you have isolation bags. So these are radio frequency isolation bags that can be used. So we're establishing the steps because we need to show the courts that we have properly followed the right steps in handling the evidence. And then we have transporting the evidence. So properly log all the evidence in and out of the controlled storage. So logging and documentation is key. And then storing the evidence. So evidence room should have, usually it's in the not in the not in the entrance, of course. Usually it's in a low traffic restricted access area where there is camera monitoring and entry logging capability. So if it's a if you have multiple floors, maybe it's in the middle floor or in the top floor. Okay, low traffic, very restricted area. And then you need to observe proper packing techniques. You have static free bags, foam packing material, and then cardboard boxes. Okay, for conducting the investigation, so the rule of thumb here, so a copy of the system should be analyzed, never the original system. That's the rule. So if you break this, okay, so there might be problem in admissibility of evidence. So a good forensic process will prove that the forensic copy is identical to the original, which will be shown in some of the demos and exercises. Investigators usually have multiple forensic copies. So you need to have the following in your toolkit: your disk wipe utilities, file viewers, forensic programs, forensic workstations, hard drive tools, and then unerased tools. So we'll be using some of these in the exercises. Conducting the investigation, so remove and analyze image only one component at a time to avoid corrupting or contaminating data. Remove the hard disk and label it. Identify the disk type. Image the disk by using a bit level copy sector by sector. This is very important. Again, I repeat, image the disk by using a bit level copy sector by sector. Make sure either three or four copies of the drive. So more than two. So three or four. No? Check the image to make sure no errors occur during the imaging process. Before analyzing the suspect disk, generate an MD or message digest or hash for all system directories, disk sectors, and partitions. Inventory all files on the system and document the system date and time so you'll have a reference point for your investigation. Next is Chain of custody, obviously, very important. To establish chain of custody, document who handled what. So evidence must be properly controlled to prevent from tampering and account all persons who access or handle the evidence. So what's the process? You need to record each item collected as evidence, record who collected the evidence along with the time and date, write a description of the evidence, put the evidence in containers and tag with case number, record all message digest hash values, securely transport the evidence to a protected storage facility, obtain a signature from the person, so this is a physical signature, who accepts the evidence in the storage facility, provide controls to prevent access to evidence while stored, and securely transport the evidence to court for proceedings. Another important concept here would be data deletion. So what happens when you delete a file from the disk? So the answer here is okay. So what happens when you delete a file from the hard disk? So okay. So in our core computer science and IT concepts, it will tell you that it's the pointer in the file allocation table is deleted, not the file. That's why we're able to. There are tools that can retrieve the files that you have deleted. And the last is analysis. So what do we usually check? So for analysis, you check the recycle bin for deleted files. You check the web browser history files and address bar histories. Check the web browser cookie files. Check the temporary internet file folders. Search files for suspect character strings, and search the slack and free space for suspect character strings. Right. So this would give you the overview of what we will be doing for computer forensics. So for all of the steps in the computer forensics methodology, we'll be using tools, we'll be analyzing different cases, and check um, and simulate the correct way of handling, storing, and analyzing evidence, and then later on creating a report. Right. So there. Thank you, and see you in the next module.